Zara had been studying the cryogenic facility for 3 Earth months before she finally worked up the courage to enter the final chamber. The human outpost on Kepler 442b had been silent for over 2 centuries, its automated systems still faithfully maintaining the last remnants of a species that had vanished from the galaxy. She pressed her palm against the scanner, her violet skin shimmering with nervous energy. The Kalani had developed universal bioscanners decades ago, able to interface with almost any alien technology. The heavy doors slid open with a hiss of escaping atmosphere, revealing a sight that had haunted her dreams since she'd first discovered this place. Hundreds of cryogenic pods lined the vast chamber, their status lights long since dimmed to black. All except one. Pod 847 hummed quietly in the corner, its blue glow casting ethereal shadows across the walls. According to the facility's records, it contained Captain David Chen, mission commander of the Terra Nova colony ship. He had volunteered to enter cryogenic sleep during the evacuation, planning to wake when rescue ships arrived. Rescue ships that never came. Zara approached the pod slowly, her heart pounding in the double rhythm of her species. Through the transparent aluminum, she could see him clearly, the last human being in existence. His face was peaceful in artificial sleep, dark hair floating slightly in the suspension fluid, strong features that spoke of determination and leadership. She had read his file 100 times. David Chen, age 34, when he entered cryosleep. A xenobiologist and explorer who had led 17 successful first contact missions. A man who had dedicated his life to building bridges between species, now sleeping alone while his entire civilization had become a memory. The Kalani archives contained the full record of humanity's extinction, a synthetic plague created by the hegemony as a weapon of genocide, released when humans refused to submit to imperial rule. Within 6 years, every human world had gone silent. The few survivors in remote outposts had gradually succumbed to isolation, equipment failures, or simply the weight of being alone. David Chen had been forgotten by everyone except the computers that kept him alive. Zara's fingers hovered over the revival controls. She had been visiting this facility as part of her doctoral research on extinct civilizations, but somewhere between reading David's mission logs and studying his peaceful face, scientific curiosity had transformed into something much more personal. "Computer," she said softly, "initiate revival sequence for pod 847. Warning, the artificial voice responded. Revival process will be irreversible. Subject has no viable population for species continuation. Are you certain you wish to proceed?" Zara closed her eyes. She was condemning this man to wake up in a universe where he was utterly alone, the last of his kind. But she couldn't leave him sleeping forever, not when she had the power to give him a choice. Yes. Begin revival. The process took 4 hours. Zara sat beside the pod as warming cycles gradually brought David's body temperature back to normal, as stimulants began reactivating his nervous system, as 2 centuries of artificial sleep slowly released their hold on him. When his eyes finally opened, they were brown, warm and intelligent, and filled with confusion. "Status report," he said automatically, his voice hoarse from disuse. Zara leaned forward, activating her translation device. "Hello, David. My name is Zara. You're safe." David's eyes focused on her, taking in her violet skin, her elongated features, the crystalline patterns that marked her as Kalani. "You're not human," he said, not with fear, but with the observation of a trained xenobiologist. "No," Zara said gently, "I'm not." As the medical systems finished their work and David was able to sit up in the pod, Zara began the hardest conversation of her life. She told him about the centuries that had passed, about the plague, about humanity's extinction. She watched his face cycle through disbelief, denial, grief, and finally a hollow acceptance that broke her heart. "So, I'm really the last one," he said finally, staring at his hands. "Yes," Zara whispered. David was quiet for a long time. When he finally looked up at her, his eyes held a pain so deep that Zara felt it resonate in her own soul. "Why did you wake me up?" he asked. "Wouldn't it have been kinder to let me sleep forever?" Zara had asked herself the same question many times. "Because," she said slowly, "everyone deserves the choice to live their life, even if it's not the life they planned. And because I couldn't bear the thought of you being alone forever." Over the following weeks, as David slowly came to terms with his new reality, Zara remained by his side. She helped him understand the galaxy as it now existed, introduced him to Kalani culture, shared her own research and dreams. David, in turn, told her about humanity, their art, their music, their endless capacity for both creation and destruction. "You're studying extinct civilizations," David said one evening, as they sat watching the binary sunset from the facility's observation deck. "I suppose I'm a living specimen now." "You're not a specimen," Zara said firmly. "You're David. You're brilliant and kind, and the strongest person I've ever met." David looked at her with surprise. "Strongest? I'm the failure who couldn't save his species. You're the survivor who chose to live even when everything you knew was gone," Zara corrected. "You're the man who still finds wonder in alien sunsets and still asks questions about how things work and still treats a strange violet-skinned girl with patience and kindness." As the weeks became months, Zara found herself falling in love with more than just the idea of preserving the last human. She fell in love with David's curiosity, his gentle humor, his determination to find meaning in a transformed universe. She fell in love with the way he listened to her theories about quantum archaeology, the way he remembered details about Kalani culture that she mentioned in passing, the way he looked at her not as an alien, but as simply Zara. And David, despite his grief and loss, found himself drawn to this remarkable woman who had chosen to wake him from his long sleep. Zara had given him the gift of consciousness, of choice, of companionship in an empty universe. More than that, she had given him the possibility of love. "I can't give you the future you planned," Zara said one night as they stood together under foreign stars. "I can't bring back your species or your world." David took her hand, marveling at how perfectly their fingers fit together despite their different origins. "No," he agreed. "But maybe we can build something new. Maybe the end of one story can be the beginning of another." Zara's skin brightened with the bioluminescent patterns that indicated deep joy among her people. "A story about what?" "About love finding a way," David said softly. "About two people from different worlds who found each other when the universe seemed empty. About hope surviving even when everything else is lost." As they kissed under the light of twin moons, Zara realized that sometimes preservation wasn't about keeping things exactly as they were. Sometimes it was about allowing them to become something entirely new, something that honored the past while embracing an impossible future. David was the last human, but he wasn't alone. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start writing the next chapter of both their stories.